Hi guys. I know you probably weren't expecting to see me back so soon, but that's how things are a little bit tough right now in the Murray household. Um yeah, I think at this point I don't know if I say this at the beginning of every video, if I have cut them out of my drafts, but I don't think that this is going to necessarily be a super structured video because there's just like a lot going on in my head right now. And yeah, I guess I want to talk some sense into myself and also have a record of how I'm doing and as well share what I have been learning as I do all the time with you guys. Yeah, so, um, recently I've been arranging a lot of things in my life and kind of like recategorizing the different problems that I have because my cat is dying. Um Saying that out loud, it just doesn't make sense to me. I think all of my friends and my family feel the same way. We just it I I'm like in anticipatory grief because I think as a person I'm quite logical. Like if a medical professional tells me like, you know, you only have 30 minutes, like I'm going to listen and I understand that. But also at the same time, my cat is 2 years and 7 months old and I just cannot fathom that possibility. I don't think it's something that I'm refusing to accept. I think it's just like something that I genuinely can't. I physically don't. I can see that he is ill, and I can see that things are different, but I just can't see that possibility, if that makes sense, that he may pass. And yeah, I mean it's been tough. Like yesterday, so we've been going to the vet every single day. Have to go again tomorrow. And yesterday they were telling me that they wanted to hospitalize him because they weren't sure if he would make it through the night. And then today I brought him to the vet. He made it. He's made it through the night. But yeah, it's been causing me to think about a lot of things lately, and it's been super emotional for everyone. Like my cat isn't just my cat, you know. He has such a huge family. Like it's the same way where I don't see my home as my home. Genuinely, anybody who's friends with me, this is their home as well, and they're literally free to come over whenever they want. Yeah, it's been making me like rethink a lot of things in life. I think 2026 in general has just been a little bit of a cursed year. And I mean, I think it's nice to discuss nuanced topics like this because in my last video, I focused a lot on self-inflicted suffering and suffering that you can change. But I also regarded in that video that there are a lot of things that you can't change, but most suffering can be prevented. This is something that you just like, you can't prevent, right? Like the only way to do it is if you were to go full Buddhist monk and not get a pet, because the loss of a pet would mean the attachment, right? External attachment. But I'm not a monk and I'm only a human and I have a pet. I have a child. Like this cat is genuinely my child. And yeah, so this is really an example of suffering that you just like you don't choose to have. And it's been making me think about it more philosophically. Sometimes I find that when I'm having emotional trouble, it's helpful for me to apply some sort of theory or thesis to it. My entire world changed when I decided to pursue sociology in university. And I genuinely find it helping my everyday life. I think it's a little bit of an unemployment degree, which is why it's only half of my degree, but as a person, it's done wonders for me in ways that I can understand my environment more, I can understand the system that I live in, and I can also understand my own heart and my own self. But yeah, it takes me quite a long time to string together how I feel. And kid you not, these videos actually, they help me with that. I'm forming my thoughts and forming the links as I speak to you guys on camera. And I watch these back. I genuinely watch my own videos back. Which sounds a bit self-absorbed, but I promise it's not. It's not in that way. Yeah. But yeah, I find it useful to apply theory. So Martin Heidegger said that has we call it a philosophical theory or a way of philosophical thinking, that death kind of reveals what matters, and death reveals all, which I don't think is particularly a unique thought, but it's interesting to think about how in our everyday lives we're so concerned with career and drama and school, and once something pivotal happens, that's when we decide to focus on what matters. And I think it's the sense of, as humans, I don't think we are conscious thinkers, at least not enough, because you always hear about when someone dies, right? People always say, I wish I spent more time with them. And trust me, I had my fair share of experience of that in 2026, and now I'm experiencing that with my cat. You just begin to realize that I've been putting aside so many things that matter for these temporary problems, a lot of which we can invent ourselves. It doesn't mean that our suffering when it comes to other things aren't important or aren't valid, but I think it does help in a way put into perspective what we truly care about the most, right? And I don't want to fall into this hole of completely invalidating all of my other grief and other aspects that I've had in my life. But when I found out what was happening with Jupiter, genuinely everything changed. I didn't fall into a state where like nothing mattered, like I'm gonna kill myself or whatever else, but just a lot of things that I was dealing with, I just don't have the energy to care anymore. I really don't. The first death that I experienced in 2026, I mean, so far that's been the only one, other than, God forbid, if anything happens to my cat, which I just don't believe it. I just don't believe it'll happen. But the first death that I experienced in 2026 really woke me up. It caused me to break up with my boyfriend at the time, which was a form of which was a form of self-inflicted suffering that I was inflicting on myself. Not because this person was bad or anything. I think I choose people well, and I'm so lucky that I've had a good dating experience, and I find people that are kind, but I just knew that in that moment in life, and I'm still in this moment. I wrote a Substack on this, actually. If you guys want to check out my Substack, I think it's Kanani Tang, Tang. But I knew that I was just not in a point in my life where I wanted a relationship. I had known this. I knew that, first of all, mentally, I couldn't handle being responsible for someone else's feelings. And second of all, I genuinely didn't have the energy for it. I just couldn't do it. And it was a form of temporary suffering. I don't want to make this sound like the relationship was horrible. It was not. But it was something that would bring me stress that I did not need. And I was holding on to that because I was protective of someone else's feelings, and also because I did deeply care for someone else. And obviously you don't want to hurt people when you care for them, right? I'm sure people just don't want to hurt people in general. But it took death, knocking at the door for me to really be like, okay, what is important to me? Because it really does tell you that there are bigger fish to fry, and that life really is not that long. I think the same can apply to if you're begging for someone else's attention, right? And let's say you lose something very important to you, that it literally will no longer matter. It just doesn't matter anymore, because you have permanently lost something else that you cannot get back. You may hold regret and resentment against it. And that's just how it is, and that's just how we move as people. I don't know if anybody can actually break out of that cycle and live fully consciously and be able to prioritize things that truly matters. I don't know if anybody's ever like broken out of that system, but we got tons of people writing books about it. My cat getting sick really exposed how much emotional energy I was dedicating to things that just suddenly feel completely insignificant. It just doesn't matter anymore. I don't know, I feel like I sound like Jobu Tabaki, but it's true. And I don't know why the mind is wired to be like this, where things are always just so conflicting. It's like you have something that is more important to you, and yet you spend less time regarding it until you lose it, and then all of a sudden all of this conscience comes back. Yeah. And then Kierkegaard, I don't remember how to pronounce his name. Kierkegaard also talked about how death and despair and suffering kind of reveals the self, and that it strips away the illusions of who we are. Kind of like when you're in a good state in life and you're happy, you have all the time in the world to focus on superficial things and to build your own image and to kind of curate who you are. But as soon as something real kind of knocks down, all of the pegs kind of fall like dominoes. I don't know if I'm like making any sense. I just feel like I'm completely yapping. Should I pull up a quote? Okay, the most common form of despair is not being who you are. So I guess suffering kind of exposes what your life actually is, the gap between what you think your life is and what it actually is, and it kind of reveals all of the delusion that you live in, which I personally just have been experiencing absolutely non-stop. Ever since I found out what's been happening with my cat, the days have just, they've literally strung into one. All of the days, because, we're just at the vet. We're at the vet every single day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're at the vet. And it kind of has woken me up from the person that I thought I was and what I thought mattered. Because I am quite a delusional person. I get lost in delusion so easily. I think that can be, a good thing, and that can also be a bad thing, because I do believe I can be delusionally optimistic, and then I can also be just, delusional in a harmful way. I don't know. But something else he said was that life can only be understood backwards, and it can only be lived forwards, which is kind of difficult to hear, because then I really think that we must all just rely on hindsight for life lessons, and that none of the learning that we do is actually active, and that we do have to go through just pain and despair. This is just quite a painful video, isn't it? Just talking about how everything sucks. I don't know. We often lose ourselves to the identities that we want to create and these social expectations, and then you don't realize that any of it is fake until a vet tells you that your cat is dying, I guess. A crisis kind of has a way with challenging or embarrassing all of your distractions. 1 week I'm sitting around, thinking about men and women and partners and school and when am I gonna go to the next party, or when am I gonna go clubbing, and fucking taking lines off of my coffee table. And next I'm fucking feeding medication to cure my cat of AIDS. Dude, it's fucking crazy. It's actually fucking crazy. One day you're paying $150 to your dealer, and the next day you're paying $1,000 to the vet. Oh my days. But yeah, it's just been like it's been a difficult time, and I think the worst thing for me is that I personally feel that I deal with pain quite adequately. Um Things hurt and they stick with me for a long time, but I don't think I've ever been like too overwhelmed with pain in my life. Whereas like one of the things that's hurting me the most is like, hearing how upset my sister or my friends are over the situation, and just kind of everybody being in grief together. It helps, but it almost kind of makes it feel worse because it then validates my grief. I think one of the biggest coping mechanisms that I have is just, if I feel too upset over something, I will convince myself that it doesn't matter. But when you have people that are there feeling the same pain as you are, you kind of realize that, oh, maybe the situation does suck. Maybe shit is horrible. Anyway, bye guys.